Let's go. Let's go. Let's go. You already know what it is. NFL is 24/7, 365. If you're a degenerate like me, Dexter Reed at World of Matchups, and my homeboy, my man, 50 grand, always on the controls, bringing the heat. Raider fan extraordinaire, Mr. Spencer the Wiz. Spence, what's going on, baby?
Oh man, the draft is one of my favorite in any sport. I mean, outside of baseball, because I think baseball's dead. But when it comes to the NBA and the NFL, it's just so much fun because there's just infinite possibilities, and you always want to be right. You always want to have like, oh, I knew that guy was going to be good, or I knew that guy was going to be a bust. There's so much fun to be had just with the theoreticals of it. I think maybe a lot of that started from like Madden or something. I don't really know where it comes from, but I really do have a passion for the draft. I was like, being a scout is like, sounds like a dream job. You know what I mean?
It's a great job, man. I mean, all travel aside, it really is a cush job.
You have to love it if you're a scout. You got to love even the traveling part of it, or else you just wouldn't survive.
Guys like you and me who, like, I mean, I didn't fail at athletics, but like I wasn't good enough to go anywhere. But I have what I feel like a pretty decent mind when it comes to this kind of thing. And I love mock drafting. I have done so many NFL 2023 mock drafts. It's ridiculous. Starting with right after the Super Bowl, pre-combine, post-combine. I did one last week, and I did one this morning while I was on the Bull. I am locked, loaded, and ready for this NFL season, and the top 10 coming to y'all right now in my mind and Spencer's mind to kick things off. So 1 through 10, there's talent all over this draft. Okay, I'm going to throw a couple nuggets out there before we get started, and I'm willing to go as far as saying that 5 quarterbacks could be gone in round 1 this year. That's how crazy I think the NFL is after seeing what it takes to have a franchise quarterback to win the Super Bowl. Also, I think a lot of offensive tackles are going to go. I think people are recognizing that when you saw what the Chiefs did with that amazing offensive line performance in the Super Bowl, we don't care who your quarterback is. If you can't protect them, you can't win. So it's amazing how I feel like the dynamic of 1 or 2 playoff games this year may change the trajectory of this year's draft.
Oh, yeah.
Your thoughts?
You see that even in the NBA. Yeah, like when you go, like think about the Golden State Warriors when they won their championships, every team became the 3 team, It's just a copy league. And I think those are where teams just start getting worse and worse. It's about identity, and I think that that's really important. Sticking to the identity of your coach, of the philosophies of your team, that's always the most important, not thinking what they did. But football's a little bit different, I will say, than like the NBA, because like you need a good left and right tackle. I don't care what team you are on. Your bookends on offense and defense seem to be the most important. I do think that was highlighted a lot. And even think about the counter argument, like the Bengals. What has their biggest problem been? Joe Burrow at the bookends, and I think that you're right. I think there's going to be a lot of offensive tackles. I don't think this is like an all-pro, and we'll get more into this, but I don't think there's like an all-pro tackle coming out of this year's draft, but a lot of starters on the offensive line. And that's enough for the first round for a lot of these teams.
Absolutely. There's no question about it. Like you said, this is a copycat league. It's like the bread is not the most important part of the sandwich. It's the meat. You know what I mean? And so if you don't have the meat, you're not working with nothing. And so I think a lot of new coaches, a lot of GMs, there's been a lot of movement this year in the National Football League, and teams are ready to mob. People are tired of seeing the big name teams like the Chiefs and the Bills and the Bengals, these other up-and-coming upstart teams like the Lions. They want in, man. And I think the Bears, they want in. The Jets, they want in the room. You know what I mean? And I think this is going to be probably one of the best NFL drafts I've seen in the last decade. So let's roll. How do you want to do this? You want to go mine first, your first, top 10 in any particular order? Who do you think is taking who?
I want to go order because I feel like I really like my top 10. I have my top 10 draft board. So I'll go number 1, and then I think you can – well, how about this? I'll go through my top 10. You can debate me on it, and then I want to hear your top 10 afterwards.
All right.
That way we're not repeating names.
For sure.
So I think there's a clear top number 1 in this year's draft, and that's going to be Will Anderson for me. I think this guy's a monster. I think the tape shows that. I think he's got a great engine. There's no questions on his character necessarily as another top prospect in this year's draft. Everything there is to like about him. If he went into the draft last year, he's number 1. I don't even think it's that close. Last year, there was no clear number 1. There were a lot of great guys in the top 10. No debating. And we were pretty right about the top 10 in that year's draft, to be honest with you. We were pretty clear cut on that one. Will Anderson I think Jalen Carter would be very close, but I think there's some things that you just have to question about the guy. We'll talk about him pretty soon. But for me, Will Anderson is number 1 in this year's draft.
Yep. I don't disagree. You know what I mean? I want to go QB because there's so many QB starved teams.
Yeah, but it's top 10 and top in terms of
we're ranking players. So I'm right there. I'm in agreement with you.
All right, number 2, I think, is where we're definitely going to disagree, and I almost want to put this guy number 1. His teammate Bryce Young. If this guy was 6'1", if this guy didn't play on one of the worst Alabama teams in the past 5 years, Bryce Young would be going number 1 overall. We would not even be talking about this right now. His small size, he's small, right? And that definitely could be a problem, but I know a Super Bowl winning quarterback who is small too. Bryce Young has the best improv skills. He's got the best processing skills. He's got the intelligence, everything. You can check off every box. Doesn't have the nuclear arm strength, that you would like to see out of a top QB, but that stuff doesn't matter. He's got the touch. He's got the ability. He's got everything. Like Tua was like dominating. Tua had a really good year as a smaller quarterback. Bryce Young is significantly better. I don't know, that might be extreme, but he's definitely better than Tua. So you put him in the right situation, I think you're going to see a lot of success out of Bryce Young. I love this guy. I think he's super underrated.
I don't disagree. You know what I mean? I don't disagree. I don't want to embellish too much.
Yeah.
I do like your thought process.
I'm trying to be careful about the embellishing too.
Yeah, I like your thought process. I will say that while Tua was a blue chip in college, he hasn't really panned out to what they thought Tua would be. So I would be very careful there. And the size scares me. But yes, continue.
Yeah, but I mean, think about the size. I mean, I don't think that's as much of an issue. Like he said it best himself. He's been that whole size his entire life. I mean, just think if this guy played think of all the great, receivers coming out of next year's draft. He just got to play with one of those guys. I mean, what kind of stats are we talking about? This guy was in the Heisman Trophy conversation on a team. I'm telling you, man, if you look back at this Alabama team, it's rare that you don't see Alabama with all these dominant guys coming out of this year's draft. Not one receiver from Alabama is even going to go in this year's draft, too.
They won't, yeah.
And I don't think any one of those groups that he played in there. And he just made it happen on so many different games. Oh, I know specifically about Ole Miss because I'm an Ole Miss fan, so I always think back to that game. But yeah, I just really like this guy. I think he's the second best. I think he's the clear-cut best quarterback in this year's draft, at least for me.
Yep. You're arguing with semantics at this point. Yep. Yeah. But I like it.
Okay, all right. Number 3 is Jalen Carter. I mean, I know this guy has problems, and I've been thinking about this too a lot in the fact that we really do project a lot on these players. Like we say like, oh, if I was in his situation. Now, the car accident thing is bad, obviously, and maybe we would never be in that kind of situation. But I would also say is I've never been a highly scouted player since I was like in, high school. I've never went to one of the biggest schools in the country and won national titles and be the best player on that team. We don't know, what kind of life these people lead. It's like they become a celebrity at a teenage age, which is terrible for you. You can go back to even child celebrities from TV shows. It's just not easy. And I think we make it sound so easy. This guy has been pampered his whole life. Not everything's been fed to him. He's obviously earned the right to be in the top 10 in this year's draft. Mm-hmm. And he's obviously made some really bad mistakes too. But something I think that we take away from this, these are young kids. They're younger than me now, which makes me feel a little old. I remember
with nobody really advocating for them except the money grabbers. So
all these money come towards him. I mean, think about if you were 20 and someone gave you millions of dollars, what would you do with it? I'd be really irresponsible, especially if you don't have those people in your corner who are really telling you how to handle this at such a young age. So I think there's a lot of room to grow. I don't think his career is ruined, and a lot of these things get amplified because of the draft too. And the closer we get to the draft, the more dramatic the stories are going to be. That's just the nature of the media. But if you look at the tape, and it's just this guy's dominant. He's the best interior defensive lineman to come out of the draft in a really long time. Now, the only problems are the rotational system of Georgia. Those are the things you're going to hear on draft day. Does he have the motor to keep going? But I've seen like 3 back-to-back plays against certain teams where this guy, it looks like a highlight reel, but it's just 3 back-to-back plays. This guy is going to be a force as long as he can keep his head on straight. So hopefully he doesn't go to a big city. I think one of these like Carolinas, or hopefully not Vegas, because I think that's the worst possible scenario for him, to be honest with you. But one of these blue-collar states, if you can get to a football team like that, focus on football, this guy's going to be absolutely dominant in the league.
I like him going to Detroit.
I think that's
I like him, bro. I like him going to Detroit. Last year's first-round draft pick falls to them. Somehow this guy ends up on Detroit. Bro, look out. Look out. Detroit's making the playoffs here, folks. They were a pubic hair away from going to the playoffs this year, and I called that. I'm standing on that hill, man. I'm waving that flag. The number 1 team I'm watching out is for the Detroit Lions outside of my own team, because they are building a bully.
Yeah, and that defensive line, obviously, if he's not there, and he's just one of the biggest mysteries of the draft, because you don't know. I mean, every team's going to have smoke screens. Every team's not going to say they're in love with anybody. There's a rumor every day that he's off our draft board, and they could take him right off the board, and that's just the nature of the draft. So I really don't even listen to any news when it comes to the draft. I just try to think objectively. If I was the GM of this team, would I want to take this guy? And I can't imagine not one team in the top 10 has this guy crossed off their list. I just cannot imagine that be possible. He's just too good.
Yeah, I love it.
All right. Next. Number 4 is a guy who I'm a big fan of. This is the guy who I want the Raiders to pick more than anything in the world. It's Devon Witherspoon. This is a physical corner. I feel like he's the most talented. I like Christian Gonzalez. We'll talk about him in a second, but I think the physicality is something that so many teams are desperate to have. And when you can get the physicality of someone like that with the talent at the cornerback position, that's just a rare breed. You just don't really see that anymore. There's not really too much to say about this guy. He's a good corner, and he hits you hard as all you can be, and he's like actually packed into a pretty small size in a sense. He doesn't have not a 200+ pound guy. He's someone who I think you can start right away, someone who can set the tone for your defense coming in their rookie season. A unique prospect, Devon Witherspoon. I love this guy.
I like him too a lot. I do like Gonzalez for you guys. A lot of the so-called experts have him going to you guys, I believe, at 7. Me personally, I mean, I get that you have to get a cornerback. I mean, when you're going up against, Patrick Mahomes, Russell Wilson every week,
it's, they haven't had a corner since
Herbert.
When I was 10 years old.
You have to do this.
It's really been that long.
I would prefer to take the best quarterback available. I mean, I'm going to stand on this hill alone. I mean, Jimmy G is there to tutor a new guy.
Oh, well, I think it's going to come down to if Bryce Young or CJ drop to 3rd, I think the Raiders' contingency is we're going to go to 3rd to get him. If it doesn't happen, I think they're going to take one of these defensive guys. I think that's literally
it'll be one of those two.
It's a checkbox.
It's a checkbox.
3, yes, yeah. And then if not, then we go defense.
Yeah, for sure. And I like him for the reasons that you like him too. I mean, Christian Gonzalez is good. He's got the long arms, but he's not nearly as physical. And if you got these tight ends, split ends, wide receivers running these curl routes, these go routes, if they know when they catch the ball, here comes the wood. That disrupts some things. There's a difference between getting hit like Steve Atwater and Ronnie Lott versus getting hit like some of these other cats that, Deion Sanders was a guy like, Deion Sanders, his whole career was finesse. He didn't tackle anybody. But people went over the middle on him. Guys didn't want to go over the middle on some of these other guys. And in this day and age, with the lack of physicality that they're taking out of the league, having a guy like this that's willing to say, come over the middle and I got something for that ass, I like him going to the Raiders.
Oh, that'd be so good. Okay, number 5 is CJ Stroud. This guy isn't going to slip out of my top 10. I'll tell you that right now, because he's too talented. He can make every throw in the NFL. He's got really good arm strength. I wouldn't say it wouldn't be top 3 in the league, but top 10, I don't think is outside of the question. This guy can really throw the ball down the field. You saw it at the combine, and the combine is what it is. I like watching it. It's exciting and gets you excited, obviously. And then I think the excitement of it starts to wane as you get closer to the draft. But, what you can see is, of course, this guy can make any throw that you want. And we've seen that on the tape. I think that I hope, and it's not going to happen, and this would be great if the Raiders ended up getting CJ Stroud. I think that's the best possible situation for him to go to.
Ain't gonna happen.
I don't think he's going to have a great rookie year. I just think that this guy doesn't really do well under pressure. I think he would do really, really well, and it would be great for his developmentals to look at the NFL, see the game speed, because I think that when you had blindside pressure on him, he just did not perform well in college. He's missing safeties in the back end when he gets pressured. And I just think that could kill him in his rookie season. Not that there's going to be any expectations if he goes 1 or 2, because those teams are hot messes and they're just not going to put him in the best position.
But they
have to take him.
They are. Carolina, they drafted Ike Ekwonu for this reason. You know what I mean? I mean, you bringing in a 32-year-old Adam Thielen, you're trying. You're trying. That you're telling everybody that we're not going to tank and get a guy and go 0-17. You know what I mean? Yeah. They're going to try. And so protection, I hear what you're saying, but protections matter. And when you don't have protection, you're not going to look as good as you could if you are protected. And so I have him ranked a little higher than some of the other guys, but I hear what you're saying. And I do think he's definitely, I mean, if you have a top 10 list that don't have CJ Stroud, let me know now so I can go back and see.
Yeah, I mean, if you want to talk about the archetypal quarterback, this guy checks every box.
He checks every box, bro.
The height, the speed. He doesn't rush necessarily. Maybe that's something that also should develop.
Not yet.
He kind of stays a little too dedicated to the pocket, but he has the ability to do that. And that's what I'm saying. I just wish he had 1 year on the bench at least, Yeah. And if he goes to number 3, which he won't, the Raiders would come up and get him. I think that'd just be such a good spot for him to be in. But we'll see. I really like him as a prospect. I think he's pretty much top 10 in any NFL draft. You can put him in anyone, and he would still be there. So that just says how how good he is.
If he's not, you don't know football. I'm sorry. There's nothing else to say. Just let me know so I can log off. You know what I mean?
He's got a good head on him too. I mean, it's just he really is kind of the guy.
I think CJ Stroud's a can't miss prospect.
Yeah,
I said it weeks ago. He is going number 1, and I'm not about to back off now. Next.
All right, number 6, I have Christian Gonzalez.
Mm-hmm.
Fast, he's lengthy, pretty much everything you want. The guy's good in coverage. Some of these things are so funny when you think about draft prospects. And there's a guy who's not in my top 10 that I'm also going to talk about when it comes to physicality. Oh, you can push him off the line. Take a look at the modern NFL. How man coverage is kind of just disappearing. It kind of seems like a specialty package to me. If this guy goes to a zone coverage team, or who's playing press coverage every down anyways? And even if they're playing press coverage, what's the chances that he's always going to wind up against the super physical receiver? I just don't see it happening. You use this guy in the right scheme. He's great in coverage, pretty much no matter what, zone or man. Sure, is he going to get beaten off the line? Is a 22-year-old going to get beaten off the line by some of these grown men? Yes, but there's no perfect prospect in the draft, which is just kind of a silly thing to think of. If Devon Witherspoon didn't exist, this guy is the number 1 corner in the draft. And I think even in last year's draft, he may have been cornerback number 2. That's how talented he is. I love him. If the Raiders draft him at number 7, I sleep good that night. This is kind of how I feel about Christian Gonzalez.
Dude, I think there's one of 2 options for the Raiders, and it really matters what happens in the first 5 picks. And I do think that there might be some movement because Arizona is coming out publicly and saying that we may not hold on to that pick. I mean, we like Will Anderson, but if you're going to give us a year 1 and then year 3, maybe fill up our soda machine for the next 3 years.
Which just makes this Darren Waller trade look so much better.
You know what I mean? Then all of a sudden the Raiders are cooking with something. But I mean, Christian Gonzalez, Devon Witherspoon, or a franchise quarterback. Those are your A, B, and C options. If none of those happen, you go outside, you take all your Raiders gear, and you throw it in a bucket, urinate on it, and set it on fire. Because some of these picks, the path to the guy that they're taking is so clear. It's like, oh my God, Dallas, you got to get it. You have to get a tight end. Oh my God, Green Bay, you got to get a wide receiver. These paths are so clear. If you don't walk through that door, you're just an idiot. You know what I mean? So I like Gonzo. I will tell you, so far our top 10s are very similar. I know for a fact I have a couple different guys than you do, but the guys that we both do have, we feel the same about. And I like Gonzo. I think him or Witherspoon, you can flex either of them out. I do like the physicality of Devon Witherspoon, though. But Christian Gonzalez, Oregon product. I'm a Duck fan. Moved here from Oregon. Watched him all year. I like the length. I like the arms. I like All of it. Yes, will he get roasted by some of these bigger, faster, stronger wideouts? Yes. Will he get bullied off the line? Yes. But he gets to the ball. You guys got a nose. If that ball is in the air, you have to fight this guy off for it. I like the move there.
Definitely. Number 7 here, Peter Skoronski,
yes,
offensive tackle. If this guy had longer arms, he might go top 3. Like, that's how good he is. It's literally, I'm telling you, the only thing you're going to hear on draft day. Great offensive lineman, small arms. That's pretty much as far as it goes. This guy's extremely talented. Someone's going to trade up for Peter Skoronski in the top 10. It could be at number 9. Somebody's going to move up to get him because he's just that talented.
He's a New England type guy. Bears, bro.
I think the Bears would trade up. What I'm
Skoronski on the Bears, bro. I mean, now you are literally telling your franchise quarterback, we have failed you for so long and we're just not doing it anymore, bro. You know what I mean? We're not doing it anymore. We're going to go out and we're going to get the biggest Nebraska corn-fed eating 360-pound lineman, and we are going to build a fortress around you. Why? Because we watched what they did with Patrick Mahomes. Why? Because we watched what they did with Josh Allen. We are going to protect the hell out of you, and we are going to make moves this year. Let me tell you something. The Chicago Bears could be this year's Detroit Lions. They can.
Well, yeah, they could be.
And nobody can talk me off it. I think the Bears, honestly, I'm calling it right now. I think the Bears will win this draft. They've got the capital. They've got the money. They've got the picks. They've got the leverage. They've got everything it takes to go in here and nail this from a standpoint of getting the guys that they want to get and having guys fall to them that other guys just screw up on. They've got it all. I really like what they do here. And if they get Skoronski, Justin Fields will take a step forward.
We'll see. I love the guy. I think he's going to be good. I don't care about his short arms.
I don't care either.
Number 8, I have Tyree Wilson. It's a guy who's so athletically freakish that you can't leave outside of your top 10. He's really not my favorite prospect in this year's draft. Some guys are huge on him. I think he's going to be the best. But a guy who doesn't have an edge rusher, a dedicated edge rusher, right? Not like a linebacker who plays on the edge, who doesn't have a developed pass rush move. It's just, I don't know if they're going to make a huge impact. Great against the run, so he is going to make an impact immediately on that, part of the field right off the bat. I just don't think the sacks are going to come, and I think that's why you're drafting him. You want a giant edge rusher to get after the quarterback. I just, in college you can be physically dominant and kind of get to the quarterback. And I think that, first of all, the ability to do that is special, right? To be that athletically gifted where you don't have all these moves and you can still get to the quarterback. That shows how physically dominant you are. And he is. But it doesn't fall so well when you get to the NFL because everybody's an athletic freak. It's the top of the top of the top. It's not like college football. So we'll see. The guy does need some developing to do. Kind of reminds me of the first overall pick in last year's draft who went to Jacksonville, to be honest with you. Kind of feels like the same archetypal type of player. He went first overall, but we talked about how weird the top 10 in last year's draft was. I like Tyree Wilson, but I just don't think he's going to make as big of an impact in year one as so many people think that he is.
I don't like him.
Yeah, I kind of feel the same way.
I don't like him. I mean, he's good. I mean, look, don't get me wrong. The school he went to, TCU, fine. He is good enough to be top 15 in my mind. He's top 15. You know what I mean? But there's some question marks about his work ethic. When you look at the caliber of competition this guy's going against every week, I mean, where I could see him ending up? I could see him ending up in Seattle. That's where I could see Tyree Wilson.
Someone's going to take him in the top 10,
he's a penetrating playmaker. You know what I mean? But if he gets doubled, he gets bullied off the line. Go to YouTube and pull up this guy's tape and watch. He gets pushed around sometimes. Now look, he's 6'6", 270. You know what I mean? You're not supposed to be getting pushed around by anyone. And so that's kind of where some of my concerns are, but he's big, he's physical, and he's a 3-down defender. He'll go top 10. He's just not in my top 10.
Yeah, I put him towards the end. All right. Here it's time for my nuclear hot takes here. These guys at the end, guys who I think that shouldn't be so low on draft boards, who I think are just so great. Guys who I'd love to have on my team. Someone, if you could trade back and get this guy, it just feels like something you kind of win the draft. Number 9, I have Nolan Smith out of Georgia. Oh, dude, I'm telling you, man, this guy's like Bruce Irvin. You play him on the edge.
I have
this
him in my top 10.
Fast, man. He's so fast on the bend around. Doesn't really have pass rushing moves, but you can also play him at the linebacker position. You can play him in zone, maybe in man in special packages.
His explosiveness is insane. The guy has dynamite shooting out of his ass off the line. He's in my top 10. I didn't think you'd have him in there, bro. He's in mine.
Oh, dude. I have to keep my eye on this guy. I love this guy. I'm telling you. I think that this is someone who Patrick Graham would love to have. He loves versatile defenders. He likes.
You know where this guy's going? I'm telling you exactly where this guy is going.
Where?
The Eagles are going to get this guy.
Where they take far down. He's not going to last that long.
He is going to get. They're trading up, and they are going to go after this guy. He is one of those sleeper picks in the top 10 that guys know. Look. That defensive line did everything they could in the Super Bowl. Everything they could, right? Versus guys who were down 20 pounds a man on that offensive line in Kansas City, and they still could not get to Patrick Mahomes. What do the Eagles need? It's an embarrassment of riches. They lost some guys, but all those guys were expendable. So what are they going to do? They're going to take the little capital they have, the little movement they have, and they are going to go get a guy like this that can blast through the line. I'm telling you, don't sleep on Philadelphia finding this guy because they know they let one get away in the Super Bowl. That's not a game they should have lost. I told everybody, you guys keep counting Patrick Mahomes out. You have to walk through that door versus him, or it's not going to happen. A hobbled Mahomes on one leg, and you guys couldn't sack it one time. You don't think that they've been losing sleep in the Philadelphia war room? They're like, we know who we can get, and we know who we can't get. So we're not going to waste our time on those top 3 guys, but a guy like him who's just laying in the cut might go 10, might go 11. We can trade up and get this guy. Watch it happen. I'm calling it right now, and I love Nolan Smith. He's in my top 10. I didn't think he would be in yours.
Yeah, he's someone I had to have my top 10.
Beast.
All right, number 10 is also – I don't know if this is a hot take, but in my mind, there's no doubt to me that this guy's a top 10 prospect. It's Dalton Kincaid.
Yeah.
This is a deep tight end draft, but this guy is like, I just think he's on a different level. He's like one of those receiving tight ends. Like, this is what Evan Ingram was supposed to be. And surprisingly, in the right system, Evan Ingram was like a top 10 tight end, maybe even a top 7 tight end last year. Once he was used correctly, I think Dalton Kincaid is even on a different level than that. One of these receiving tight ends. I'm not going to say like Travis Kelce, but I'm saying that if you could design an offense where he is just a mismatch every play, too fast, for linebackers, just a little too big for some of these cornerbacks. This is a receiving threat that I think on the right team, imagine he goes to the Bengals. Imagine he goes to one of these teams like the Chargers.
He's going to Dallas.
Just imagine what they can do with an offense like that.
Just
switching
you have
these guys on the outside, and then he just carves you up in the middle. Yeah, this is a guy who I think is going to make a huge impact in his
Dallas, Cincinnati, Phil, the T.J. Hawkinson role in Detroit. Yes. I mean, there's such a wealth. I can't remember the last tight end rich draft like this. You know what I mean? So there's a couple other guys, and there's a guy I have on my list that you don't have on your list from this position. But yes, I like what you're saying about Kincaid. I do think that, it's like exit stage left, Dalton Schultz, enter stage right, Kincaid. They're going to put him right in. You've got a throwing quarterback. Look, the only problem with the Dallas Cowboys, let's be honest, man, is their quarterback.
Pretty much.
I mean, if
they have some of the most loaded teams you've ever seen.
Dak could ever get his head together and they could win enough games to get home field at Jerry's World, the Cowboys could go to the Super Bowl. And this is the kind of piece where enter Kincaid, you don't miss a beat. You don't miss a beat. They got the wideouts, they got the defense, the line is good enough. And honestly, man, I think the coach has done a decent year. I mean, I was ready to get rid of this guy, but he had a good year last year. And, if you have a good year, I'm going to give you your flowers. I mean, they melted because of Dak. They melted because of Dak. So I really like Kincaid. I like your top 10 list, bro. I mean, you were making it sound like it was kind of crazy, but I don't think there's anything out of the realm of possibility. And you got to understand, a lot of these are just close your eyes, throw the dart, and where it lands is where it lands. Yeah. But your arguments for all of them make sense. You know what I mean? They make sense. So
I'm ready for this top 10.
Mine is similar. Okay, mine is similar. So obviously, Will Anderson to me in number one. If you don't say this, what are you talking about here? I mean, the guy is created in a lab.
Yeah, nothing's 100%, but I can't imagine this guy's not an impact player in his rookie season.
He is the most prolific edge rusher in this draft. I have watched the Arizona Cardinals play live. They're putrid. They've got a whole lot of nothing. They're literally going to be the worst team in the entire league. They get a new coach. We're trying to get a new look.
I mean, you can have your quarterback for half the season already.
I mean, come on. You have to start with the building blocks. Winning teams.
They'd be crazy to trade back, to be honest with you.
I think so too. I believe that winning teams are built in the trenches, and then you put the pieces on the outside. You know what I mean? Like, unless you're desperate for a corner and you have the beef in the middle, you should be taking everybody over 300 pounds. I believe that. I just believe that. You know, like I said earlier, man, the bread's not the most important part. That's what pulls the meat together. And this guy is the beef. It's a good start getting him. I love him first overall. I think you have to get him. Also, like you, number two. I do believe that Bryce Young is the most electric talent in the National Football League coming in, but I do not think he will go number one overall for a lot of the reasons that I've mentioned before that we will not rehash. I just don't see it happening. There have been rumblings that the Houston Texans may not even choose a quarterback if
it's got to be a smokescreen.
If Will Anderson's still available, which he could be. I mean, this for the most part could be the type of draft where you think 1 through 5 are solid, and these guys could throw a curveball, and all of a sudden the war rooms all over the country. Oh my God. You know, it's like seeing an agent. He's got one phone on his hand. He's in the shower on the speakerphone. His wife's holding the other phone. You know what I mean? Because all of a sudden, like, guys that you think could not be available are now available. And I think Bryce Young is electric. My only issue with Bryce Young, and maybe it's because I have this thing against Tua. It might be. I'm just jaded, man. Smaller quarterbacks just don't do it for me. I need a warrior at number 1 and number 2. I need a Patrick Mahomes. I need to know if you get a high ankle sprain that you are not going to be crying on the sideline. I don't need a hangnail, I got a thorn in my foot quarterback. And these guys are little. One good lick and they're gone. I need 6'4". I need 220. I need an arm. I need acumen. I need intangibles. I need legs. I need leadership. I got to have it all. I got to have every single box checked if I'm taking you 1 or 2. I got to have it. And I think there's some things that are going to be missing there, man. I mean, you got to remember, this ain't college football. I've heard guys go into their first year as rookies who get interviewed, and they're like, man, this is not what I thought it was going to be. This is another level. These guys, what are these guys eating? Who are these? Where do these guys get creative? It's a completely different game. It's completely different speed. He ends up on the Houston Texans with that horrible O-line. I don't know, bro. I'm not saying he's
David Carr 2.0, man.
I'm not saying he's not him, but I'm not saying he is. But he's definitely top 3 for me because the talent, the tape, it's all there. It's undeniable. I mean, is Davis Mills really that bad? I think Davis Mills is every bit as good as Tua. You give Davis Mills, Tyreek Hill, and Jalen Wilder, what happens then? You see what I mean? So they may go Will Anderson and screw everyone's head up, but he is they could, bro. Dude, this is the Texans. And let's take a second and think this over, okay?
They may throw a dart at the board. That's how chaotic they are. Bro, they may be like, all right, it's time to draft.
Let's unwrap this even more, though, because this is what we do here at World of Matchups, okay? David Culley gets the screw job, even though he made $22 million off doing nothing, and then who else got broomed last year? Who was their other coach they just fired? Lovey. Yeah. You know what I mean? And so Lovey Smith's like, you know what, man? We're not tanking. We're going to go out. We're going to win. We're going to go win this game. We're going to go win this game.
That was amazing.
A book should be written about him screwing them out of that one pick. I love it.
It's an NFL classic to me, that game.
It's a classic.
It was amazing, that game.
The story itself, a 30 for 30 should be made on that story. Because literally, let's say, for instance, he screwed them out of that one pick, and then that one pick goes on and becomes a Patrick Mahomes, a Ben Roethlisberger. Dude, Take care of your staff and your coaches, you freaking morons who are running the show, because if you don't, they're going to come back to bite you. And I think it could happen here. Keep an eye on this storyline, guys. I'm telling you, if the wrong quarterback goes to the wrong system, watch out. Number 3, CJ Stroud. Nothing else needs to be said. I've been banging the drum for CJ since day one. I think his best situation is where he's going to go in Carolina. I will be absolutely shocked if they take Bryce one overall, Young 1 overall. I like, what they've done there. They've brought in some ancillary pieces, kind of like what Jacksonville did last year when everyone was laughing. And then all of a sudden, Jacksonville is in the playoffs winning a home game when they're down 4 scores. Who's laughing now? Laugh now, cry later. I like Frank Reich. He's going to get his franchise quarterback. You drafted Ike Ekwonu last year, so now his blind side is protected. Dude, you're building something. And they have capital and they have some other picks. Let's say they get a tight end in this draft for a security blanket for CJ, and they let this guy take off a little bit. Stop with the pocket passing. If it's not there, run. You know what I mean? Like, he could end up being the steal of this draft at 1. A lot of people don't seem to think so. I'm standing on his hill alone where, I'm holding that Carolina flag with his name on it all day, every day, and twice on Sunday. And if they don't take him, to me, that'll be the shock of the draft with the first pick. Next, Jalen Carter. Bro, good Lord. If this guy didn't have character issues, he'd go 1 overall. I mean,
probably.
Dear God.
You see the way he dominates his competition, yeah.
I'm telling you guys who are watching this right now, if you're kind of just like a casual fan and you don't really, get into college a whole bunch, just take a second, log off, and go Jalen Carter highlights on YouTube, and then come back to this.
It looks like he's playing Kiwi football sometimes.
And then come back to this. I mean, and that's if you're still breathing. You know what I mean? Because this guy's tossing 300-pound guys around like rag dolls. This guy is so physically gifted that, to me, if he could just stay out of trouble, he could end up being one of the greats. And you know where I think he's going to go, bro? I told you. I think he's going to go to the Lions, bro. Oh, my God. What a big addition he would be to the Lions. Now you are building something there in Detroit. He's a force multiplier. Multiple guys they have to go after him. He must be double teamed. It has to happen. 6'3", 314, 22 years old, young, strong, hungry. He just needs the right people advocating for him, and he could be an NFL great immediately. I love him going to Detroit. I wouldn't be surprised if he ended up. Look, if he's there when the Raiders pick, you guys have a major.
So
problem.
Hard to say no, man. It's so hard to say.
You guys,
first of all, they don't have any interior defensive linemen. Like, they literally, they may have someone on roster, but no one worth noting, like, at all.
You got yourself
there. How do they say no?
You got yourself a real problem, okay? if
I agree,
you do, because like literally, I like to win, but I like to win with good guys. It's just kind of weird, man. I was raised Huxtable. I don't want any thugs on my team. I mean, I was kind of mad when they got rid of Marcus Peters, and there's been a lot of dissension in Kansas City. You know what I mean? But at the core of it, I get Patrick Mahomes. You know what I mean? I get Mr. Goody Two-Shoes, family man, Mr. Investments, face of the league, commercials, happy, smiles, never ruffles any feathers. You need to have that. Some guys just want to win. I want to win with that. But if Jalen Carter fell to 31 and the Chiefs did not pick him,
I'm like a Raiders guy too, man. Just
he is a Raiders guy. He fits the identity, but I'm telling you right now, there's no way in hell he'll be there. There's no, and if there is, I smell a rat. Next, 1, 2, 3, 4, number 5. This is where you and I differ, okay? I don't see how Bijan Robinson is not on anyone's top 10 list. I just don't, okay? I just don't. Now, you're seeing the market for running backs and how that's panning out in the National Football League. Why? Because when you look back at the last 10 Super Bowls, where's the big name running back? I mean, look at Isaiah Pacheco. He made $800,000, $900,000 this year. Every single year. Look at the winner of the Super Bowl. You do not need a top 10 running back in this league to win a Super Bowl. But every now and then, here comes a prospect. And this is the most exciting National Football League running back to enter this league since Saquon Barkley. The hype is real. Folks, go look at the tape of this kid and get back to me. His trajectory when he touches the ball is all world. His analytics are nuts. And I'd like a couple spots for him. But my number one spot for him is Chicago. You put this guy on the Bears, man. You know, I'm not saying he's going to be Walter Payton, but that's something the Bears haven't had in a while. David Montgomery was good, okay. But this guy is a freaking wrecking ball, okay? His combine was great. He can go to Seattle, too. Back him up. Two-headed monster.
You think he's going to go top 10? You think there's a chance he goes top 10?
I don't think he'll go top 10. If he goes top 10, it would be 9 or 10, but he's in my top 10. He's in my top 10, okay? His explosiveness is insane. His 1-2 punch with a guy like Kenneth Walker would be off the charts. They've got a decent line in Chicago. Now, what scares me about that is that Justin Fields is a running quarterback. And you can't make a running quarterback a pocket passer. So now you just got too many guys running all over the place. But his talent is undeniable. Look, this kid is waiting to eat. And the comparisons that people are making with BR is Adrian Peterson, bro. People don't make those comparisons lightly. You put your reputation on the line when you say something like that and it doesn't come to fruition. And I'm one of the people that love this kid. Look, he's young. He's only 21, 5'11", 215, prototype. Guy can break tackles, can run you by you, can run over you, got good speed, has a nose for the end zone. I don't know how people aren't looking this guy up, man, but he is going to be my number 5 in my top 10. Number 6, I'm a big fan of Devin Witherspoon too, for the reasons that we mentioned. I think that you got to have Devin Witherspoon on this list. Good corner help is hard to find, especially when you're in the AFC and you're dealing with Patrick Mahomes, Josh Allen, even Lamar Jackson, Justin Herbert. You know, it goes on and on and on and on. I mean, you know, Joe Shiesty. I mean, look, the AFC is winning the Super Bowl for the next 10 years.
It feels like it.
If you don't have look, unless you are able to kind of pull off what Kansas City did because they just can outscore you so much, you know, without a top flight number 1 corner, you got to have one. You're going to be in trouble with that one. And I think the Raiders haven't had one since, you know, Asamoah. And I think that if he is there and Jalen Carter is gone and you're not really happy with the level of quarterbacks that are left, you know, I mean, if a Hendon Hooker's still there, I don't like Anthony Richardson for you guys. Will Levis is probably going to go to Indy. I don't see how you don't take this guy. I just don't. You have to have somebody that's going to cut the field in half. Now, can he do that? I'm not so sure he can, but like I said, you go over the middle, bro. You know what I mean? You're going to be seeing canaries if your head's not up because this kid can hit. And what I like about players like him is that he's physical. This is a man's game that the league is trying to make a woman's game. Let's be honest. You can't even talk trash to the quarterback, more or less touch him. I am old school NFL football. I grew up watching guys get their heads knocked off. Now, we don't want to see guys get killed. We don't want to see guys get paralyzed. But this is a man's game. Let men play it. And so I love him. He's going to be my number 6. You got to have him.
Yeah, he's definitely just like one of the top prospects in this year's draft. Just undeniable.
It's undeniable, bro. I mean,
it's not like Jonathan Abrams where he just hits people hard. It's like that's just part of his game. He's also just a good cornerback.
He's very, very, very good. Number 7, we talked about Big Pete, Peter Skoronski. Yeah. The only drawback to this kid is he's got T-Rex arms.
He's got small arms. That's
it. That's it. You put this guy on the line in Chicago, you're instantly better. You're instantly better.
He makes any team instantly better. He's that good.
He has the look of a Bill Belichick guy. Lunch pail, hard nose, TCU. Never going to ruffle TCU, never going to ruffle any feathers. Just going to go to work and lay people out. Okay, look, the Bears have to take this guy. He's got elite strength.
I think they're going to trade up.
So strong.
I could see them trading up to the Raiders position.
I could see it too. Now, here's the deal that I really like about him more than other guys, that he does both. He's an elite pass blocker. He's an elite run blocker. You don't usually get both. He can also play tackle or guard. So now you've got flexibility. You are literally getting taste, size, pride. You're getting everything with this kid. It's like going out and buying a car. It's fast. It's shiny. The electronics are dope. The interior is great. I mean, you get everything from Skoronski. I don't see this kid falling out of the top 10. If he does, you guys are out of your mind because there are so many of you GMs and teams that need beef. You need help, and help is right there. If you don't grab this kid, you're out of your mind. If you guys let one of these teams like New England trade up and steal him from you, you deserve everything you get when you're 4-13. Next, Nolan Smith. I mean, what else is there to say,
sleeper,
bro?
Man. Just an absolute sleeper in this year's draft.
What else is there to say? I mean, we discussed it. It's like he gets shot out of a cannon. It's insane.
An edge rusher. I mean, he's, like I said, he reminds me a lot of Bruce Irvin. So just everything that guy was. I think
there's so many comparables to him and so many of the other greats. And I don't know why, man. I just think he's going to end up on Philly. I don't know. I just have that feeling just because of the explosiveness that team was lacking when they absolutely had to get Patrick Mahomes on the ground and couldn't. You know what I mean? Teams don't forget stuff like that. It's like when the Chiefs lost the Super Bowl and they were like, okay, we got destroyed, and we got destroyed because our line was tattered. So what did they do? They went in the war room and they fixed that one problem. Nothing else mattered but the offensive line. We're not doing anything until we get that line fixed. I kind of see the same thing here in Philadelphia where Howie Roseman's going to be like, how could we not? We had all these sacks. We had all these Pro Bowlers. We had all these Pro Bowlers on the side of the field, rotating Pro Bowlers in, and we couldn't get one sack. We're going after Nolan Smith because no one else will. I like this pick for him. This is a guy who's going to fit. He's going to fit into that rotation right away, and he's NFL ready. I really, really, really like this kid. Number 9, Christian Gonzalez. Talked about him earlier. He could end up on the Raiders. It wouldn't bother me at all. Oregon product. Like I said, got the arms, got the acumen. He's a smart kid. I watched him a lot this year as a Duck fan, and I think that if he falls out of the top 10 with the way cornerbacks are needed in this league, you guys are just absolute morons. I mean, there's just nothing else to say. I don't know, man. You can't – see, here's the part of the draft that I really like that a lot of people don't think of. You may not need the kid, but do you want your enemy to have the kid? I would rather rotate in guys than let a guy go to someone in my division.
Yeah.
So you have to think about that. I mean, if the Chiefs are drafting and then the Chargers are right after, or the Raiders are drafting in front of the Broncos, like there's this guy. This kid's a blue chip. He's a stud. You know, let him eat a couple peanut butter and jelly sandwiches and get in the weight room, and now you are working with something. Is he Jalen Ramsey? No, but he's good, man. He's
going to be a starter for a long time. That's all you really need to know about Christian Gonzalez.
One starter. Look
for
at
10 years.
Look at Sauce Gardner. Look at Sauce Gardner, guys. That's all you need to know. Sauce Gardner took the practice field and hasn't left yet. And he's not gonna. He's not gonna. DROY. It could happen, and the Raiders absolutely need it because the Chiefs, the Chargers, they eviscerate that secondary. I mean, the Raiders may have the worst secondary in the league. I mean, who was your starting safety, Jonathan Abram? I mean, that guy's bagging groceries at Albertsons now. You know what I mean?
They definitely made some improvements. I like Epps from the Eagles this year, but they just haven't had the guy for a long, long time now.
Yeah, for sure.
In the secondary.
Anyway. And then my final pick is going to be one that a lot of people might poo-poo on, but I think he is the number 1 wide receiver in this draft class. I don't think it's close. I think it's Quentin Johnson personally.
Okay, I wanted to put him in my top 10.
I think it's Quentin Johnson.
There's so many people just bagging on this guy, but
I don't know why.
I had him at like number 8, and I changed it last second. This guy's great, man.
TCU could have a good draft here. TCU could really nail this draft. They could really, these guys' alma mater could really shine hard here, and for a lot of different reasons. Look, when I think of Quentin Johnson, I think of 50-50 balls. I kind of think of a T. Higgins guy. There's a team out there right now that they cannot go into the season with this wide receiver room that they have, especially when you feel how far Quentin Johnson may fall. He may fall to 22. He may fall to 23. And I think that will only happen because there's just so many more can't miss prospects. Offensive tackle is going to go hard. I think quarterback's going to go hard. DT's going to go hard. Bijan will definitely go. No one's letting Bijan Robinson go out of the top 15. I'm sorry. If you guys, if you do, you're absolutely nuts. You know what I mean? So here comes a sneaky kind of player who needs a good team with a good quarterback, and that's the Kansas City Chiefs. The Kansas City Chiefs are going to draft up here. They're going to trade some of these picks that we've robbed other people of. Brett Veach is an absolute genius. You have Justin Ross now, Quentin Johnson. If you get Hopkins, great. If you don't, great. We already know Patrick Mahomes can make anyone look good. And you know what they did last year with the defensive side of the ball, drafting all these rookies, 7th rounders who are making huge plays in clutch situations. I think they may do that on the offensive side of the ball this year now. And it will be Patrick Mahomes will be he'll be the veteran of that O-line. I mean, that offense with him and Kelsey and a bunch of kids. MVS is what he is. Juju's no great loss. Justin Ross will fill that role. You know what I mean? And so I see this kid's skill set being unbelievable, quite frankly. And no one's really talking about him. Everyone just wants to
knock
bag
on
him.
Is that he gets pushed off the line. But I've talked about this, and I was kind of mentioning that earlier with like Christian Gonzalez. You got to be physical with him. Our team's really going to just start playing straight up press coverage, man-to-man zone because of one rookie wide receiver. That's a fallacy, dude. There's no shot. They're going to play defense like they normally do. This guy's huge. He's fast. He played for TCU. I mean, come on. Like, this guy has the intangibles that you like. Now, yes, is he going to play against man coverage and is he going to struggle? He is, but he's also a super young guy who can probably develop those things once he gets to a real NFL team.
He's 21.
I love him. I think he's the best receiver in this year's draft.
He is.
Think it's necessarily close.
It's not close. Jalen Hyatt maybe, but Jalen Hyatt's intangibles. I mean, he's not as big. He's not as fast. He's not as strong. So I mean, that to me counts him out. I mean, Tennessee's a better school, fine. But look, what do the Chiefs need? The Chiefs are always looking for speed. They're always looking for size, and they can mold this guy because they're not going to ask him to be Diesel right away because you got Kelsey, you got Justin Ross, MVS who's been there. I mean, Sky Moore. You got your gadget player, Sky Moore, Justin Watson even. I mean, the Chiefs have it's a litany of weapons, and I don't think that you can be scared to go up 6 spots to let a guy like this not go to the Chargers because that's what'll happen.
I think so. I think they're ready.
He'll go to the Chargers.
Ready to get rid of the old guard. You know, like the Keenan Allen.
Mike Williams is a bum. He's always hurt. Keenan Allen's on his way out, and so
I think the Chargers have like 2 names on their draft board. It's Dalton
and this is one of them. Mike Mayer maybe too. Mike Mayer is a really good tight end. You know, but like you don't want the enemy to get the guy that you can use day one. And everyone's like, oh, DeAndre Hopkins would be so good in Kansas City. And he would. But if that happens, it's not happening till after the draft. Are you willing to bet that happens or not? They may not release him. And now you're stuck with no one as your number one. And so I feel like you got to get that wide receiver room fixed. And he's the guy. He is my sleeper player at number 10. A lot of people have poo-pooed on this guy. I am not going to be
people
one
are
of them.
saying he's a 3rd-round pick.
You're out of here.
You
guys
crazy.
Are out of your minds.
I saw it
look
today.
At this guy's tape. This guy, there's T. Higgins. There's some T. Higgins in this kid, and that's what the Chiefs need. The Chiefs are constantly going up against these guys, the 50-50 ball guys, the T. Higgins, the Mike Williams. They need one of their own. A.J. Brown, they need one of their own. MVS is not that guy. MVS can't catch, but he's just a burner. He'll show up, but he's not consistent. They need a consistent young dude, and I can see this being the guy. I can also see him going to the Giants. Giants are fixing their O-line. They need weapons. Daniel Jones just got $40 million. You got to make that $40 million look
good. I could see that easily.
I could really see that happening as well. So that's my top 10. A little different than yours. We've got, I think, 5 or 6 that are similar. But I think guys like Bijan Robinson, you can't have this guy not in your top 10.
One guy who I want to mention who's outside of my top 10 for really good purpose, and a guy who's like not even necessarily on my draft board, is Will Levis.
I'm not a big Will Levis fan.
You'd have to check me into a mental hospital because I'd be inconsolable, dude. I think he's weird. He's got a weird attitude about him.
He's really going to Indianapolis.
Acts like it.
He's going to the Colts.
I don't even want it to be a possibility that the Raiders couldn't even think about drafting him.
I've seen some mocks where they take him.
I'm just looking at. I just see Brock Osweiler when I see Will Levis.
I'm not a Levis fan.
Brock Osweiler with a worse attitude.
I like Anthony Richardson more than I like Levis. I think Levis goes to the Colts. I like AR going to the Titans.
Yeah. Richardson is just too much of a wild card. I just don't even know where to put him. He could be great. He could be out of the league in 4 years.
Malik Willis didn't pan out. Let's be honest. Malik Willis had
Anthony
enough.
Richardson's a completely different level.
He's a different Willis. I could see Anthony Richardson going to the Colts too. Why? Because the Colts are just so vanilla. The Colts offer nothing in the way of fireworks, and their fans are vanilla. That's this vanilla city. You need an absolute shining star with his arm, with his legs. I could see them taking a chance. I mean, you got a brand new head coach who might want to make some waves. I mean, that's the most boring NFL team in the league. Do something.
I have no idea where Anthony Richardson's going to go. He's such a wild card. He's going to mess up someone's draft board.
One of those two are going to the Colts. Hendon Hooker, he's another intangible. I think people are sleeping on him. I think if
he was healthy, he'd be in the top 10 too.
If the Raiders are smart, they would back in their draft. I'd take him the minute you got Gonzalez. You know, he would be the next. I'd even trade up to get him.
I'd trade him in the second round to get him.
Again, in the second round, look at what the Chiefs did. Everyone laughed at the Chiefs. Patrick Mahomes is a reclamation project. He's got bad feet. This is the worst trade in Chiefs history, and look what's happened. You cannot listen to what other people are saying. If you like it, and you stand on that hill alone, and you draft it. And that's what the Raiders have to do. I'm telling you right now, if the Raiders come away from this draft and they don't have a franchise quarterback, bro, it's over for you. It's over. Because you're not
or you reevaluate next year. I don't know.
Will you have the capital to even get a Caleb Williams without giving up Mad Max? You see what I mean? The time to strike is now. They're not going to be terrible, though. They're not going to be terrible. The Raiders are going to win 8 games. This is what they do every year. They are the biggest 500 team in the National Football League. They're going to win 8 games. They're going to win games that don't matter late. They're going to screw up their draft picks, and they're not going to make the playoffs. And Jimmy G is going to throw for 3,500 yards, 30 touchdowns, 15 interceptions, and Raider Nation is going to think that's good. Dude, you are surrounded by Mahomes, Russell Wilson, Justin Herbert, who if they could ever get their coaching together in LA, that's a team that could really go someplace. Let Bijan Robinson go to the Chargers. Sit behind Eckler. Eckler's going to be gone, dude. Let that happen. What? Are you kidding me? The Cincinnati Bengals.
I could see that too. The Chargers,
the Buffalo Bills are going to get their act together eventually. Those top 5 teams, you're going against them regularly, bro. What? You have to get your franchise quarterback and say, man, we're doing what they're doing. I've said it a million times on this show. If you see the blueprint on how to win in the National Football League, and then you have an opportunity to join the blueprint and you don't be mad when you're a 500 team for 20 years. I don't know what else to tell you guys.
One thing for sure about the Raiders is that they're operating differently than they have for the past 20 years. So I don't know if it's going to be good or bad, but I do appreciate that it's different.
Look at the Lions. The Lions says we have had enough of this crap. We are not embarrassing our city any longer. They get the right coach, and they are drafted well. Hutchinson's great. Let me tell you, let Jalen Carden go alongside Hutchinson. What? Yeah, you mind? Let them get Bijan Robinson. These are day one starters, bro. Look at Chicago. Look at what Chicago's already done. These teams have had enough. That we are tired of sucking. We are rich in history. Walter Payton, for Christ's sake. We have the Super Bowl shuffle. We have arguably the greatest team in NFL history. We cannot continue to do this nonsense. And they're not. Look at the Jets. Dude, you are being outpaced by teams like the Jets. It's a disgrace, and it cannot continue. You're in the greatest city in America in Las Vegas. Yeah. Fans deserve more, bro. I mean, look at the Giants. These are teams that are horrible that are making more moves than what's happening in Vegas. So I think you guys gotta get a day one starting quarterback. Who is the number one player right now that you wanted to make your list that couldn't make your list? Who's your honorable mention if there was an 11th player? Who would it be?
I think mine would be Quentin Johnson. It's someone who I really wanted to. Another guy who I love who's going to be a day one starter. So it's like if you have a day one starter, it's so hard not to put them in a top 10 list. That's Paris Johnson Jr. from Ohio State. Yeah. He's going to start year one, and he's going to start for the next 10 years. So it's like, how is he almost not a top 10 pick?
Yeah. But I like him a lot.
But he's a right tackle. You know what I mean? It's like, they're just not exciting picks, but it's like you do need a right tackle. You can't just leave that position open.
I agree. He's
going to start day one.
I agree a lot. I like him a lot. Michael Mayer would be mine. I think he's the best tight end in this draft. I think there's only 10 teams in this league that has a really good tight end. I think when you see teams that have vacated the position that are on the rise, teams like the Lions, for instance, they get rid of T.J. Hockenson. They got better after T.J. Hockenson left. You bring in this big kid from Notre Dame, good hands. He can run routes. He can block well. I think he has to be in my number 11 list just because there are so many starving, tight end needy teams. Let Michael Mayer go to the Cincinnati Bengals, bro. Oh, my goodness. You know what I mean? Let the Giants have Waller now, but let the Jets go and get Michael Mayer. You see what I mean? There's so many. Let the Chargers. Let the Chargers get Meyer. Hell, let the Raiders get Meyer. You don't realize it, but there are so many teams that don't have good tight ends. And if you have a good tight end who's a mismatch every single week, I mean, look what Travis Kelce has managed to do in the National Football League. It's absolutely insane. And he's got that knee-biting, blue-collar, lunch pail, muscular, just beastly specimen of a tight end that a guy like Dan Campbell would just love. Michael Mayer, I'm telling you.
We didn't talk about it too much, but the tight end depth in this year's draft is unbelievable. There's probably 4 or 5 guys that I could see.
Kincaid, Mayer, in my mind, are the top 2.
I'd have to look at There's one other name. There's a really tall guy who reminds me of the old Saints tight end, Jimmy Graham. I can't think of his name right now.
There's a couple of guys.
He didn't play a lot of snaps in the draft or in college, but the guy has everything.
Yeah, you're talking about Luke Musgrave.
Yes, dude, that guy. You get him in the third round.
255.
He doesn't have the route tree, but I think if you put him in like something like Josh McDaniel's system, where it's like, dude, I'll tell you where to go. You know what I mean?
Oregon
State,
man. You get him in
an offense like that. You get there, I'll get you the ball. You know, like those kinds of things. I love that kid.
Yep, he's got the yards after the catch, creating athleticism.
Jimmy Graham, man, I'm telling you, that's my draft comp for him.
If you need a good tight end, this is the year. I mean,
it is, and I think the Raiders just positioned themselves perfect. They got rid of the top paid tight end who didn't play football for the past 2 years.
That was a great move.
They got a third round pick for him.
You got a third round
money,
pick,
and you can get his replacement. They already got Austin Hooper, which I think is like a serviceable replacement for the time.
Yeah, he's a good blocker, but you need somebody that can get out in the flat and make things happen.
Yeah,
you know, that's not Austin Hooper.
This is the year to do it.
I like Musgrave a lot, man. He was on my list. I mean, if I had a top 20 list, there'd be 3 tight ends on there.
I think so too. Yeah,
there'd be 3.
It's amazing.
Kincaid, Musgrave, and Meyer. I'm telling you, man, don't sleep on this kid Meyer. If he ends, I'm telling you, there's 3 teams I'm really looking at. The Bengals is one of them because they lost some key pieces and they know they need to keep up with Kansas City. So
they're in a good spot, man.
They may give up the farm to move up. They could take Bijan and get rid of Joe Mixon. They could get Musgrave to get rid of, the Hayden Hurst.
I think if the Bengals get Bijan, I think everyone's going to be like, oh, how far is he going to slip? How far is he going to slip? And then suddenly the Bengals take him, and everyone's like, how did we let Bijan rock?
Chicago, the Lions, the Bengals, and the Chargers. Those are the 4 teams I'm watching out for. Those are the teams that I'm looking to see what they really do, because they've lost some key pieces, but there's day one starters that are going to be sitting there waiting for them. That I'm telling you, man, if these guys get any of these guys, I'm telling you, whoever gets Bijan, whoever gets Musgrave, whoever gets Meyer,
Kincaid,
I'm telling you, bro, Skoronski, Will, I mean, there's so much great
very
talent.
talented draft.
Let Nolan Smith go to the wrong team. Jesus. Oh, my God. I mean, let Quentin Johnson end up on a Patrick Mahomes-led team. I mean, it's just an embarrassment of riches at that point. I don't care what you guys out there are saying. This kid is a stud. This kid is an absolute stud. You guys can poo-poo. I'm not one of those guys that needs to agree with everyone. I actually like when I like something that you dislike, because it just makes me look better when it comes to fruition. Yeah. I have died on so many hills alone. I don't have any friends. I don't need any. You know what I mean? Like, I know good talent when I see it. This kid checks all the boxes. And so I'm pretty excited about this year's draft. I mean, I could have done 1 through 40. I do like your top 10 list. I wish these teams a lot of luck. I've gotten into the draft a little bit more this year because we both went last year. We were actually there. That was the first draft I've ever been to. I would have gone to Kansas City this year to go, but I decided I would rather save my money and go see some away games. And so I'm going to be watching it from home, you know what I mean, dissecting it, looking at these picks. But I think that we've done a pretty straightforward list. Well, not maybe straightforward. You know, there's some contrarian plays for both of us. But I'm telling you, I think in the top 15, we're going to see at least 3 or 4 trades. I may even bet it. I know for a fact Chicago may trade down. I think the Eagles will trade up
or trade up. Chicago can trade up or down. I think there's a lot of contingencies for these teams that they're going to
could see Arizona, crapping the bed and trading out and letting Anderson go somewhere else. I could see 3 or 4. I could see it definitely happen in the top 20. Absolutely. Absolutely. These teams know what's at stake. In order to kill Patrick Mahomes, you have to bring everything.
Yeah.
You need guns, knives, bazookas. Andy Reid, that guy's got better protection than Joe Biden. You're going to have to bring everything to beat the Chiefs. Everything. The Eagles brought everything they had and still lost. These teams know. They've watched that. I'm telling you, the NFL playoffs this last year is going to have a bigger impact on draft day than ever before.
I'm excited, man. We'll do another video after the draft ends up happening, and
we'll do a post. We'll do a post video. We did one last year. Maybe we'll go back in the studio. I was thinking about maybe let's get in the studio for that and do a long one like this one. I mean, it just makes sense to do it. It is what we love to do. So we'll see what happens with that. But that's it, guys. Long video today, but a real one's listen to every word we say, because that's what we do here at World of Matchups at Blue Milk Boys Gaming. Draft in a couple weeks. You guys enjoy, comment, tell us what you're thinking, and maybe we'll shout you out on the show and throw your comments in there if it comes to fruition on our wrap-up show. Once again, Dexter Reed, Las Vegas, Nevada, Spencer the Wiz, Blue Milk Boys Gaming, and we're out.
Peace. See you guys.